morning. Chirag is not available this morning, so he asked me to finish up our discussion this week on this very important topic of listening and creating extraordinary connection and impact on your clients. So we're going to do a little more practice this morning, but before that, I'm really curious. I see many of you were here yesterday and the day before, and I'm pretty sure that you spent some time thinking a little bit about this topic after our call was done yesterday. And I'm curious to hear from you. What's been on your mind about this topic since the call yesterday? Did you find yourself with a minute between appointments yesterday or sometime in the evening thinking about how all this relates to your business? The reason I ask is we've had calls from several of you saying, thank you so much for focusing time and attention on this. It's so important for us to do more with this than just think about it for 2 minutes and then move on to the next topic. So getting those messages from you make me curious about hearing from some more of you. Please put in the chat, what's been on your mind about this topic since we talked about it yesterday and you had a chance to practice a little bit. I see Wayne there. He had a question yesterday. I know some other folks had questions during the call, so I'm sure you've had a couple of minutes to think about it. What's coming up for you when you think about this topic and how it relates to the success you're having with clients, the success you may be missing with clients? What's on your mind with this? Colleen says how I missed winning a listing a couple of weeks ago when I didn't listen properly in one aspect of the appointment. Okay, great. What a great self-awareness. I always say a new self-awareness is the birth moment of a new result. That is, when something you weren't aware of becomes something that you are aware of, suddenly a door opens to a new possibility for you that simply wasn't there before. In a sense, that door was closed. So Colleen, would you mind coming off of mute for just a minute and just tell us a little bit more about what that situation was?
Sure, David, happy to. Yeah, in fact, yesterday I was with my partner. We did a script partner. We did an example of this yesterday. And she pointed out to me something I said, and I think I did the same thing when I had the appointment. So I really felt like I was going to get the listing because the woman and I really got along well. But there was an aspect of it where I said, she asked me, okay, what do you think I should do with my place to get ready for? And, you know, I love doing that. I've done a lot of updating and stuff for people to get online. I mean, to get it ready to market. And so I was trying to be cautious, and I said, well, you could do this, you could do that. And I think ultimately she didn't pick me. She didn't pick me because she wanted to list it $100,000 more than what I believed it was worth, the place. Mm-hmm. And she said, well, I don't want to do all the things that you had suggested. Mm-hmm. Right. But then she told me that she was going to do, like for the bathroom, for example, she goes, yeah, I'm going to do this with the bathroom, blah, 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 which is exactly what I had suggested, but it was minimal. Mm-hmm. So so even though I had said to her, well, you don't really have to do that, I think she heard before that, you could do this to make it look better, to get more money. Mm-hmm. And she stayed on that versus like when I said, you don't have to, but this is a suggestion. And I should have said, you know, well, maybe I should have said like, well, what are you willing to do as far as the property is concerned to get it ready? And if she came back and said, well, I think it's perfect, then, you know, where do I go from there? So, makes sense?
Yep, got it. Thank you. It's a great example. So, you know, one of the things about listening is that there are plenty of opportunities within a given conversation for us to go this direction or that direction. And if we're really being conscious while we're listening, we're considering the different options. I really like your open-ended question there. What are you willing to do? All right, we talked about open-ended questions yesterday. An open-ended question like that really helps you understand the full breadth of what she might be considering if she's willing to answer. Well, I was thinking of doing something with the bathroom, thinking of doing something with the kitchen, thinking of doing something with the leak in the garage or whatever, right? Any of those things could be, part of her response. If we don't
What
ask
you,
an open-ended question, you could say with a series of closed-ended questions, would you like to update the bathroom? Would you like to update the kitchen? Would you like to? That's another way to get to it, but it's a different kind of a feel and experience for the person.
right.
Also, if she says, well, I think I'm going to do this, then you have another choice point. You could be a cheerleader. You could say, that sounds wonderful. I'm sure that would have a benefit for us here, and it's worth your effort. That's a great idea. You could follow that up with another question. What other things might you consider doing? What other things are in the potential ballpark for you here, right? Those kinds of open-ended questions help you understand the whole picture, that the way it looks from her point of view. Remember, our mindset, one of our mindset elements from yesterday was understand what the world looks like from their point of view. So it's useful to you to understand not just what they're willing to do, but why. What is it that's holding them back from doing more? And so if you can get that whole picture, then you're in a better position to respond or perhaps offer something. Of course, you never know when you say, here's some things you might do. You don't know how people will respond. They might respond perfectly and positively to that. It might be the right response in certain cases, and it might not be in some other cases, because everyone has a different way of looking at these things and processing it. So there's no foolproof answer or statement for any of these things. And this is where the art of listening comes in. It's about having different tools in the toolbox and probing from different angles and seeing what you get back, and using that information to make a more kind of accurate statement or ask the right question a moment later. It's kind of like shooting an arrow. The first arrow you shoot at the target might be off target a little bit, but it's okay. Once you realize it's off target, you can go and you can like aim a little higher or come from a different angle. And the second question or the second statement might hit closer to home for that particular person. The point is, you want to get to a point where that person is feeling like you're on the same page with them and
David,
not opposed to them, right? And this is what Chirag often talks about. You don't want to end up on the opposite side of things. And this is what makes that conversation about price difficult, right? You have in the back of your head, this house is never going to sell for that, right? In their mind, it's the house is going to sell for that. But from our philosophy, from our point of view, the last thing you want to do is end up on the other side. Because once you're on the other side, they feel that, and that's a disconnect for them, right? Once they feel that you're no longer on their side, then you're hurting your relationship with them. Rather, it'd be better to walk away, having not given them the experience of being on the opposite side, than it is to stick around and end up on the opposite side. And you've probably experienced this with your kids. Sometimes your kids does something, and as a parent, you got to deliver the message, or you want to be, disciplined or whatever, and you end up in some kind of a confrontation. Doesn't mean you never do it. Doesn't mean that it's ever not the right choice. But with a client, this is the kind of very quick thinking that you have to have all the time, and think about, what is the relationship here? What is the experience I'm creating for this person at this moment in time? So
David,
yeah, go ahead. One more thing.
So what if she said, well, I'm not willing to do anything at all.
Yep.
And that things should be done. How would you respond, David?
Yep, got it. So here's where we get to the conversation we had yesterday about whether this person is the right client for you, right? If she says, I'm willing to not do anything, well, there's many ways you could respond. You could say, okay, great. So here are 3 houses that have sold in the last 3 months that nothing was done, and here's what people paid for them. How do you feel about that? And if she says, great, I'll sell it for that, fine. If she says, I'm not selling it for that, then you have a question, right? Is this person the right person for me? Excuse me. So it is tough at that moment to really consider whether this person is the right person for you or not. Of course, you've invested time in this person. You don't want to give up on the relationship, but you have to ask yourself, is there a law of diminishing returns here for this client? Am I better off to invest my time and effort in some other client who's willing to meet me in reality rather than non-reality? As I've said many times, qualifying a client is not simply about, can they pay the mortgage? Or can they pay the down payment or any of that? It's, is this person willing to collaborate with me until success on my terms? That's it. If they're not willing to collaborate with me on my terms, and one of my terms is they need to be in reality about price. If they're not willing to meet me in reality about price, they don't qualify for me, period. I can't tell you how many people have come to me and they wanted me to coach them or do something for one of their groups. And they say, here's what I want you to do, and here's how much I'm willing to pay. I'm sorry, it doesn't work. I have to let that one pass. And so it's something we need to think about. Are we investing our time and energy in the right clients? And sometimes, unfortunately, we're not. And it's painful, especially if we've made the investment over time. In a sense, you're marrying this person for several months. And if it's somebody you've already, in a sense, married and you've made that investment in that person, you don't want to have the divorce, but sometimes the divorce is the right thing.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome. Okay, a couple other things here. Then I'm gonna review the 2 slides from yesterday, give you something in case you weren't here yesterday or in case you forgot, just a quick reminder. And then we're gonna give you a chance to practice one more time today. It's so important, folks. This is not an intellectual conversation for us to have on a Zoom call at Chirag Shah Coaching. This is something that is the single most important thing for the success of your business, is what happens in that space between you and that client, or you and that potential client. Nothing else in your business is more important than that. And so we're going to practice this more in just a minute. Wayne said, I saw a notice there, how to sound more natural. It's a great comment, Wayne. So common for all of us. How do we do this naturally? There's only one way to get there, and that's to keep practicing it. Keep working at it every day for 6 months until people tell you, thank you for listening, or you're a good listener. Once you hear those comments from somebody, it proves to you that you're doing this very well. If you're not hearing that at least once a month or more, you're not listening effectively enough, and just keep at it. Everyone can get there. That's a good thing about this, is if you have a planned and purposeful way of thinking about it and a planned and purposeful way of working on it, which is practicing a little bit every day, you can absolutely get there. Anyone can, everyone can. This is not just some like magical skill that's limited to some certain slice of the population. Every human being can create a powerful relationship with someone else. You think of the people that you love. You think of the people that you love having around you to advise you in your business or advise you in your life or just be part of your life. Somehow they do this in some form, in a way that works for them and works for you. Okay, so let me pull up slide. I want to show 2 quick slides, and then we'll give you a chance to pair up with others. 2 slides from yesterday and last week I had something about this: listening mindset, listening skill set. Listening mindset. There's 3 items here that are important for you to think about to carry with you into any listening opportunity. And what we're talking about here, remember, is the opportunities where the client comes to you and presents you with something, a situation. Maybe they're excited, maybe they're sad, maybe they're confused, maybe they're looking for guidance, maybe they're looking for validation, maybe they're looking just to vent, maybe they're looking for, I don't know, something else, right? Maybe they're looking for input. In every case, they're presenting you, they're coming to you because they want something from you. And so the first important question to ask yourself anytime someone comes to you, whether it's a client, whether it's a coworker, whether it's a vendor, whether it's someone in your family or in your life, ask yourself, what do I think the client is looking for here? And you need to try to distinguish. Are they looking to vent? If so, let them vent. Are they looking for advice? If so, give them advice. Are they looking to just have companionship and just a shared feeling of togetherness because they just got that cancer diagnosis this morning or something like that, right? If somebody comes to you and says, I got a cancer diagnosis this morning, they're not asking you for help. They're not asking you to solve their cancer, right? They've got a doctor for that. What they're asking you for is to stand next to them and walk forward with them, even if it's just 1 step, because they can't take that step by themselves. So ask yourself, what are they looking for from me? And be clear in your own mind what you think that is. And if you're not sure, remember the 5 magic words. How can I help you? Second, meet them where they are. No matter what your client brings to you, whether it makes sense to you or not, whether it seems realistic or not, that's where they are. And so your work is to understand that that's where they are and accept that. And third, stay with them as long as they need you to be there. If they're really frustrated about the market and you'd like to get them out of their frustration so you can talk about how you want to remarket the house or something else you can do, that's perfectly good, but you can't get there before they're ready to go there. They may need to talk about it for another 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 7 minutes before you go there. And sometimes if you go there a little too soon, they may tell you, I'm not ready to go there. Can we just keep talking? Can we just think about this a little bit longer for a couple more minutes? They'll tell you. But the point is, you need to meet them where they are and stay there as long as they need you to. If you take them out of that space because you want to get out of that space, you're now in your agenda. You're no longer in their agenda. And listening means it's always about their agenda. This is the fundamental tension that we have as human beings. The person comes to us, they want to make this interaction about their agenda, but you want to make it about your agenda. Yeah, I'll talk with you about it for 2 minutes, but I don't have any more time in that. Why not? Because that's my agenda. Right? So stay with them as long as they need you to be there. That's listening mindset. If you can remember these things as a mindset to bring with you, then you're setting yourself up for success. Listening skill set, 5 skills. Pick one of these for your practice here in just a minute. Patient listening, keep your mouth shut. Allow the other person to say what it is he or she wants to say in the way that he or she wants to say it. It's great that you're compassionate. It's great that you're service oriented. It's great that you want to solve your client's problems. But sometimes if you jump in too soon, you're giving them the message that they don't have a place in this relationship to say what they need to say or say it the way they want to say it. And worse than that, they may interpret your jumping in as condescension. What do you think? I'm too dumb to say what I need to say in my own words and you have to say them for me? Ask open-ended questions, beginning with what, where, when, why, how, right? These are questions that cannot be answered yes or no. If you don't typically have some of those questions sprinkled in there, work on that. Third, tell me more statements. A tell me more statement helps you understand more about a particular situation. It invites the person to keep talking. It tells them, I care about listening to you, and I would like to listen more. And so tell me more could be anything. So if a client says, I'm really frustrated right now. We've put in offers on 3 different houses. We can't get any of them. And I'm just like ready to give up. And you could say something like, well, tell me more about where you are at this particular moment. Or you could tell me more about what it would take for you to say, give up, I give up. Or tell me more about, where you'd like to go from here. Lots of ways that you could make a statement like that. That's really asking a question. Please give me more information. Paraphrasing, that's feeding back what you heard from the person, both the facts and the feelings, if they identify them. It could be something like, what I hear you saying is, or I get the feeling that you are X, or I just heard you say Y. And finally, clarifying, what do you mean by? I had to use that this morning with a client. I was on a call with a client early this morning, and she said, such and such happened, and my mind was blown. I had to ask, what do you mean by your mind was blown? And then she explained what was really on her mind. That mind blown phrase, or I've got to get my mind around this. Sometimes those phrases are kind of vague. And there are opportunities for all of us to clarify so that we make sure we're getting the facts straight. So those are the 2 slides to remember for today. Pick one of these skills to practice here in this practice session that we're going to do in about 1 minute. So I'm going to suggest that as you practice your listening going forward, just focus on one thing at a time. If you've ever played golf or some kind of a sport like gymnastics or something, but golf is a good example, there's a lot of stuff that goes into developing a good golf swing. There's where you stand in relationship to the ball. There's what position your hands are in at the moment of contact. It's how high your swing is or how far back your swing is, how you're rotating your hips, where are your shoulders, are you turning your head? There's lots of pieces, and it's hard to think of it all at one time. So generally, coaches will have people work on one thing at a time. And same thing in skiing and many other sports. I suggest the same thing happening here. Pick one thing to work on for at least minimum 2 weeks, or better yet, 30 days, and just say, I'm going to work on that particular piece of this for 30 days. And then I'll move on to the next one for 30 days, move on to the next one for 30 days. If you're doing this right, in 6 months, you're going to have people regularly saying, thank you for listening, or you're a good listener. And that's the point here. When people say those words to you, what they're saying is, I've had such a powerful experience of being related to by you that I feel compelled to tell you about it. I hear those comments from people every week. Absolutely. In fact, sometimes I hear it from 2 different clients in the same day. And you might say, oh, well, that's different. You're a coach. It's your job to listen. But what do I say to that? It's your job to listen too. It's everyone's job to listen. So we should all be hearing this at least once a month. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to pair you up with someone else, and just going to give you 5 minutes. One of you be the client, one of you be the agent. Just pick a particular story that you've actually experienced with a client. The client came to you with some kind of thing they were confused about, or they were upset about, or they weren't sure about, and you just be that client. And the listener will just be there to practice one skill, right? Don't make it complicated. Just pick one skill out of those that you want to practice. Listen for a little bit, apply that skill. We'll come back in about 5 minutes and we'll see what happens. So we have 38 people, so that's 19. Okay, so for those of you who are back, write down in the chat box, what was the skill you were practicing in this particular exercise? Just put it down in 1 word or 2 words in the chat box. What were you focusing on in your conversation with the other? Okay, everybody's back. Welcome back. So I just asked the folks who came back a little early to put into the chat box the skill that you were working on. Tell me more, paraphrasing, patience when listening, frustrated clients. Got it. Can I just hear from Ian quickly? When you say frustrated clients, tell me more about that, please. Ian, can you come off of mute for just a moment?
Hello, are you there?
Yep, we're there. We hear you.
Sorry, I'm on vacation and I'm in Florida in a hotel that, or condo that doesn't have the best of service, but hopefully you can hear me.
Sure.
We weren't really dealing with clients as far as pitches, quite honestly. We both just happened to be in situations where we had closings that weren't going as planned and weren't happening as they were supposed to. So lots of delays and lots of problems. So both kind of going over those frustrations and how to try and empathize while also trying to show them that you're doing your best and you're trying to solve the problem as best as possible.
Yep, got it. Thank you. There is no better time to make a connection with your client than when they are frustrated, angry, confused, have some kind of an emotional thing going on. Imagine how you feel if you're on a plane and you're going to go on vacation and you're at the airport and it got delayed and it got delayed again and it got delayed again. You're sitting there for 3 hours and then it gets canceled. And then you go to the person at the desk. You're like, well, what's going to happen now to my vacation, right? If that person responds to you in a certain way, that could restore your faith in the airline or it could destroy it forever, right? Same thing could happen at a hotel, but an airline's a good example. How you respond at that moment is everything to the future success of your business. In fact, I could go as far to say as if you handle that situation right, it's a guaranteed referral down the road sometime in your life. And if you handle it wrong, you'll never get that referral from that particular person. So that particular 5 minutes that you have with that person in that moment could be worth $30,000, $50,000, some referral down the line. Thank you, Ian. I see a couple others here, patient listening, tell me more, trying to practice paraphrasing. It's not easy to do this stuff well, and you can't let your struggle with it or some mistakes that you make along the way to dissuade you from continuing to practice. The same with learning how to swing that golf club or play the piano or speak a language or whatever. Mistakes are the pathway to success. And the only way to get there is to work through those mistakes so that you don't keep making them. I mean, one way that I sometimes think about this is to get really good at something, you have to make 10,000 mistakes. And so all you have to do is get through the 10,000 mistakes and then you're good at it. It might take you 6 months. It might take you a year. It might take you 5 years. But once you made those 5,000 mistakes, if you learn from them, of course, then you're at mastery. And there is no more important mastery for your business than the mastery of the space that we call relationship. That space that you inhabit with one other person at a time in your life will always be the core of the success or failure of your business. Or another way to say it is, the success of your business is a reflection of the success of you in that particular space. It's not enough to say, I love my clients. It's not enough to say I'm compassionate. It's not enough to say, I really want to serve my clients. The real proof is in the pudding. It's what you do at that particular moment. Stepping back and saying, well, I love my clients. I'm a great, service-oriented leader, all of that, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't matter. What matters is what happens in that space. And that's why we're focusing on this. Okay, everybody, I'm really happy to see everyone continuing to work on this and continue to work on it, please, every day of your life with somebody. You don't have to look for those opportunities, but you can. You can say, who am I going to talk to today who might really need me to connect with him or her? Some days you'll have that person. Maybe it'll be someone you haven't met with in a while, or maybe it was a client that you know is dealing with a problem and you're going to have to meet them at 2 o'clock. Or there are other times where you may not have a direct conversation where you can kind of aim going forward. But when you find yourself in that particular conversation, that's when you can also practice. So practice it at least once a day. Just work on one skill for 2 weeks or 4 weeks until you get really good and comfortable with that, and then move on to the next one. Once you do it well, you'll have it like a toolbox, and you can pull in the various tools, and you'll do it without even thinking. And the great thing is, somebody will tell you sooner or later, you are a good listener. So good work, everybody. Keep it up there. Look forward to seeing you soon. And for those of you who will be in Boston, look forward to meeting you then in person. Thank you, everybody. Get out there and make the contribution that only you can make. Have a great day.